Howdy there, everybody. We are here for another Zoom at noon with Rob Wickline for his second clinic here. We're going to talk about harmonics on the guitar. Now, harmonics are kind of they're not too difficult to play some of the harmonics, the easy kind of open harmonics, 12th fret harmonics, 7th fret harmonics. Some of them start getting pretty complex, right? So we're gonna take you all the way from just beginning to figure out what is a harmonic.
Yeah.
All the way to how you're gonna use the harmonics too. Okay. So let's go ahead and why don't you start, Rob, and let us know what's first off. What are harmonics?
So harmonics are when you're first like associating it with the sound. They're these like bell-like kind of tones that you can get out of the strings, either with different ways of using your thumb, or if you hear these like these kinds of things where you can just start the sound and it kind of just blooms out. Where that comes from is you're just like dividing the string essentially, and it allows you to access a higher note that's a resonant frequency
Right.
of the pitch of your string. And as you go up the guitar, as you go lower in frets, you can start to access higher and higher harmonics because it's dividing the string into smaller and smaller chunks.
Right.
So shorter lengths of string equal higher pitch. So shorter chunks of divisions for your harmonics equals higher harmonics. Even though it's kind of a mind trip when you first start messing around with it, and you're going what you're used to hearing as going lower is actually bringing you higher in the harmonics.
Yes.
So there's kind of a number of different ways to get these tones to come out. The easiest ones are just with the open strings. And you can first do it by just locating the 12th fret on any of their strings. And instead of actually fretting and pressing all the way down so that your finger is causing the string to go down into the metal fret and create this tone, you just sort of rest it. Instead of when we fret a note and you go right in the middle of it, you put it right over top of the fret, but you don't press down, and you just kind of rest your finger over there. And out comes this little bell sound,
Right.
that you can that rings out just like an open string does.
So that note is always there, though, right? I think that's one of the important things to understand about harmonics is that you always hear that harmonic note. You just don't hear it. It's not as predominant as the fundamental note, right? So you're technically what you're doing is muting the fundamental, right, which is the basis of the note, like whatever has the most harmonic like power, right?
I mean, if we want to do the little like miniature science lesson like behind it, when you hear a note from any instrument, you're not really just hearing a G or whatever note it is. You're actually hearing a whole series of notes that, like I said, that term resonant frequency earlier.
Yes.
It sounds like this big, scary science word. But really just what I mean by that is that if I play like a G on my 3rd fret here, or even just like, let's just go open string. If I play a low E, you're not really just hearing that E. The note that you register as E is what Jared said is the fundamental note. After that, you're hearing all of these notes. First, you jump up an octave, and we get our E again. And then you go up a 5th, we hear our B, another E. And then you start getting into other notes like you go up into the major 3rd. And then you hear the 5th, and then there's this dominant 7th, and it keeps going up and up until it gets fully chromatic and all this stuff. So but the important thing is that you're hearing all of these notes to some degree or another in every note. It's all that relationship: octave, 5th, another octave, 3rd, etc. Right. You're hearing in some relationship. It's just maybe a clarinet has more fundamental versus a trumpet has more of this resonant frequency, and a guitar has more of these frequencies. It's just a balance.
Flute has almost all fundamental, right? Like whistling, that's actually probably one of the best examples I've heard. Is a whistle is pretty much only has fundamental, right? Like there aren't any extra frequencies. Well, there's some, but it's less. You can do this a lot with synthesizers. Like that's how a good way to explore this is take, a sine wave, which has nothing, right? And then keep on adding harmonics to that sine. And that's pretty much what we refer to as additive synthesis. Yeah. That's what it is we're adding harmonics.
That was kind of the cool thing that synthesizers brought to the world was, well, we can completely deconstruct sound in a way that we couldn't before. We can, choose how much of this harmonic information we want to have in the sound. And to bring it away from synthesis back into, the harmonics, we're talking about guitar. When we talk about distortion or overdrive, we're really just talking about adding more harmonic information.
Right.
The reason why when you listen to a punk song or a metal song or a rock song or something like that, that's all power chords. The reason why those power chords feel like plenty enough information and you don't need more notes in those chords is because they have so much harmonic information going on that your mind is like, it has enough to process just by hearing if you're hearing something like that, like that's got all sorts of harmonics going on that, I don't really know all the details of what all the kinds of harmonics that distortion adds, but it just adds all this new information.
Right.
Basically, I guess the takeaway is that the harmonic series is a way of looking at like how sound sounds. It's like what's the mixture of like spices
organs have been doing this for forever, right? Organs for hundreds of years. This is how organs work. So harmonics are not a new thing. It's been around since the beginning of sound, right?
Yeah. And even all of these techniques that I'm about to mention for guitar are predated on like the violin and other stringed instruments that can actually do even fancier things with harmonics than guitars can.
All right, let's get into some actual for guitar kind of.
So harmonics. Let's talk about guitar harmonics. So I'm gonna just talk about the low E string. That's the larger our sound source, if we were to talk more broadly than guitar, the larger our sound source, the more easy it is to get more harmonics above it. So we're going to just talk about the low E string. Since it's the thickest, it's the easiest to get all these harmonics out. So if you have no experience with harmonics and you first want to experiment with them, go to your low E string. It'll be a little bit easier than like your high E string. Yeah. It's pretty easy to get the first harmonic out of the high E, but after that, it can be a little finicky. Without distortion anyway, which we'll get into. So to access these harmonics, we can first play just our open E string, and then play the 12th fret just like you normally would, where you actually fret it. And then that note you can actually access with a harmonic, and guitar luthiers or repairmen, whatever you want to say, they'll use this to check how in tune your guitar is. They'll play the harmonic here on the 12th fret. By, like I said earlier, you just lightly put your finger on the string without pressing it down over top of the fret. They'll compare your fretted 12th fret with the harmonic 12th fret to see if they're actually the same note. So that gives you the first octave up. We got our 12th fret, 12 half steps is an octave. The harmonic gives us that same note, so there's our first octave up. That's just dividing the string in half. Our next harmonic, going in order from lowest to highest, is going to be at our 7th fret, which is going to be the 5th related to our fundamental note. So the fifth from E is going to be B. So this note is also the same pitch as your open B string. Fun stuff. But you'll notice that it just has a slightly different sound quality to it. The open B kind of has like a sharpness to it, and you know, open strings just have a very peculiar or unique sound.
Right.
Whereas this, if you get that same B from this harmonic, it's like way softer. It kind of has that little initial attack sound that you hear, that quickly fades away before it goes into this muted tone. So yeah, fifth.
Yeah.
And then the next one is going to be on our 5th fret, which is going to give us the next octave up, which is going to be the same as your open high E. So,
Cool.
Yeah, so those are the basic ones. Like we were talking about before, the harmonic series and this idea really kind of just goes infinite. And I guess theoretically, you could say you can just keep moving your hand down the neck and you'll keep getting higher and higher. In practice, they start to fade away pretty quickly after that octave. But with, like I said, it's easier to get the harmonics out of the thicker strings, so we can get a few more on our wound strings. So I'll just go over those right now real quick. The after hour octave on our 5th fret, now they no longer are staying on nice even, 12, 7, 5 frets. It gets a little bit, you just need to sort of feel around, but our next one's going to be like right past our 4th fret, and that's going to give us the 3rd, this G sharp. As you can hear, it's a little less pronounced. By the way, these are quiet. So how's my volume on your end, Jared?
Yeah, you could hear it all.
Hear all of them? Okay,
yeah,
cool.
They're all coming in nice.
Cool, sweet. So we got. It's a little hard to find. You can see even I do stuff often. It's you got to kind of feel around, and even like usually if there's a passage that starts to involve those higher harmonics, I kind of need to set aside specific time to practice, like getting exactly where my finger goes to get it, because like I said, doesn't just fall evenly on
and how much pressure too, because it's like even how much you're pushing down, because we are essentially muting the string, but we are also going to mute that harmonic if we don't pull off of it quickly. Right.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was just about to say, is that like you probably noticed that after every time I played a harmonic, I've done like I pull away really fast. Right. And that's because if I were to just do that same harmonic but keep my finger there like I were fretting the note like this, it'll fade away kind of quickly.
Very quickly, yeah.
So yeah.
gotta let it breathe. You gotta let the frequencies ring out there.
Exactly.
Right.
So that's why you'll see this, like if you it's kind of hip on Instagram, like to have like a whole bunch of harmonics for like flashy bass or guitar playing. Yeah. And you'll see when people do these fast runs, especially on bass, it's like this really weird like this like kind of shaking thing, because they're like quickly trying to go between these harmonics, but quickly take their hand away from the string so that they're not muting them, and they actually get the effect, which is this kind of harp like cascading notes sort of thing.
Cool. Nice.
So all right, so anyway, we got the octave on the 5th fret, we got our 3rd, which is somewhere right around the 4th fret, a little bit past it, and then we can get the 5th and the flat 7 on this string, not so much the other strings. Again, it really kind of depends on the model of guitar, your kind of the kind of strings you have on, and whether or not we're talking acoustic or electric, if you have distortion or whatever, what your likelihood of being able to get these out are. So experimentation is definitely the key here, but at least I can demonstrate we got our, hopefully you can hear that 5th higher, which is going to be this 7th fret B, and then we can also get this 10th fret D out of our low E string, and even I kind of got that the next octave E. So you can get up there. It's pretty fun to mess around with. It gives you access to notes that you normally have access to, but they sound different. And since the harmonic rings out without you needing to touch it, much like an open string, you can kind of, like I said earlier, you can do these like harp-like effects where you just hear like you just have all these notes sort of like
just give
around.
Just give them yes,
cool.
right? Just give everybody roundabout. That's what everybody wants to do, right?
Yeah.
Just give them roundabout. That's what everybody wants.
That's one of the biggest ones. Is the top 4 strings, that E minor 7 chord, and then what is it? Something like that. What is it?
I'll do it for you if you want it.
Don't tempt me. I'll do it. Yeah.
And then this. That left.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah.
Still got it.
That's
still got it.
I should sit down and learn that the finger picking part. It's really cool sounding.
Oh yeah, that was probably the best I've done it actually in a long time. That finger part. Normally I'm like nailed.
So yeah, we can.
So and some of those low harmonics, I get you're probably going to talk about this later, but like there's certain guitar players, certain musicians like to use certain parts of their guitar different. Like Zakk Wylde, the guitar player who played with Ozzy Osbourne for a while, he
loves harmonics.
loves harmonics, and he's big on those low harmonics, and I think he does a lot of those pinch harmonic kind of things too. But you hear those in his playing all the time, where he's just like he does them with like a wah-wah pedal and tons of distortion, so it's like wow, like these screaming, these like screaming like cat sounds or something like that. Yeah. All right, as you were. Sorry, I just wanted to point that one out.
No problem. No problem. So our basic overview of how our harmonics look on every string is we have 12, 7, 5. Actually, I can play these as I say them. 12, 7, 5, a little bit past the 4th fret, and then maybe somewhere around the 3rd fret to get you your 5th, depending on the string. You can also get that 3rd, the one that I did right past the 4th fret. You can do that on the 9th fret for reasons I honestly don't understand. So just... I don't know why the 3rd's like you go all the way to the 7th and that brings you to your 5th, and then we're jumping up like a whole 6th when we go back 2 frets. I don't know. I'm not a science wizard, so my knowledge is limited at a certain point. But we can get that major 3rd off of the 9th fret a little bit more clearly, so that kind of gives you access for your higher strings. So we can go through, but these are all related to the fundamental pitch of the string. So when you're thinking about harmonics, you kind of need to do a little bit of calculation in your head to make sure that these notes are working together. Or if you're looking for harmonics in a specific chord, you can sort of calculate what harmonics you have available, at least the open ones, before we get into other stuff. So if I were to do the same thing on the A string, we obviously have our A octave on the 12th fret. And then after that, we have our 5th, the E. And then another octave A. And then our C sharp, which is the major 3rd. For the A string. And so then on the D string, we got D, A, D, and then F sharp for our major 3rd. So you can probably hear that now the 3rd's a little bit more difficult to bring out. So let's see if it happens on the G string. I feel like I can get it out there, but it's just going to be quiet. So with our G string, we got the octave G, our 7th fret D, our octave G again, and then the major 3rd, if I can get it. Hey, I can. And then on the 9th, comes out a little bit more clearly. And then lastly, because we already went over the E, so it's the same notes, but just 2 octaves higher for the high E. Our B string is going to have B, F sharp, B again, and then our D sharp. Yep. Starting to have a lot of difficulty bringing those out. So,
you're also playing clean, so
yeah,
when you're playing clean, so if you added some distortion or something, or some kind of, you could probably get them out, but right. See,
you don't have to beg me to turn distortion on.
No, I think I'm glad that you were showing it clean to show, like, I mean, you can do this on an acoustic guitar too, right? You do get these sounds. It just helps whenever you amplify anything, right?
Yeah. So that's where it's going to be way easier to get harmonics out of a distorted or overdriven tone, because like we said earlier, overdrive and distortion are literally just adding harmonic information. So it makes those harmonics easier to access.
Right.
But I would encourage, if you have a passage you're working on, first figuring it out clean, so you can make sure that you're getting your finger, like I was having trouble finding that major third harmonic on the 4th fret. You want to make sure that you're getting, like when you're practicing where to put your hand, that you're putting it in the perfect spot, because sometimes these harmonics, especially on the higher strings, can be tricky, and you don't want to, be potentially missing out on like the strength of the harmonic by just starting out going right into a distorted tone, and you can get the harmonic out without really trying that hard.
Right.
So making sure that you have a nice strong harmonic coming out and then adding distortion, I would highly recommend.
Yeah.
The thing to be aware of, though, when you then transition to distortion, is distortion you have to worry about muting a lot more than you do when you're clean, because your strings are just way more amplified.
Right.
So when you transfer to a distorted or overdriven tone, then you kind of need to go through this other kind of filtering process where you readdress how you're doing the passage, and you do it best so that it sounds good with the so that you're muting all the notes with all the added volume from the distortion pedal. Sorry. So harmonics can be a lot of fun with, let's just take some of those, before we go into other techniques, let's just take some of those notes that we have access to and sort of find some cool chords that we can add. Obviously, we can get those top 4 from the roundabout, right? That's the yes track. Right. Yeah, roundabout. From roundabout, I like to, if I'm in a song that's in E minor, and playing this top chord and then messing around with other harmonics is a good way to practice this. If I'm in E minor, exploiting harmonics can sound very pretty on guitar, because we got this F sharp on our B note, which is going to be the 9th or the 2nd of our chord. That's going to go right between our root and third, and you're just going to hear that rub between this G natural and this F sharp. But you're going to hear them in that nice, like, open, harp-like sound. Sounds really nice.
Right.
Likewise, you can get this C sharp on the A string, which is kind of like the brother of that F sharp, the 9th. It's just like another sound to it. And it's kind of hard to bring out, but so yeah. Getting that 9th is really pretty. You can go up and get the next octave B. You can just sort of keep that, like, that grid of 12, 7, 5 sort of in your eyesight, and just sort of pop around the strings and play a bunch of them and just see which ones sound cool together. Just sort of dive right into the water. So, like, if we're just taking the D and G strings and we just go up the harmonics, it can sound pretty cool. Just sort of like, and that was just like something that I didn't like pre-plan that, it was just like, all right, let's just see what this sounds like.
And these work really well, like, in between phrases that might have more musical, like
Yes.
more melodic.
Yeah.
That like these work really well as like a counter to a melody, right? Or something,
sure.
something just to, you know, it's like when you get bored of playing a melody. Then, like, I mean, that's probably where all these things came from. It's just musicians who got bored playing what they normally do, and they were like, "Whoa,
Yeah.
what was that? Whoa,
Yeah.
let me get deeper into that." So, one thing that I did when I first learned harmonics was I learned how to play Amazing Grace using the harmonics, and it sounds really. I mean, I haven't done.
You
this
do that
in
on
years.
the in G? Yeah.
Like, and you know, just from, and it's just 7/5s, right?
Yeah.
And I just thought, like, it, to me, that was like, what a pretty song to learn on harmonics too, because you know, it's one of those beautiful melodies, and then to play it in this different way on acoustic guitar was. I don't know. I've always wanted to. I should record that and just like put that up, like just as a, you know. Maybe I'd get put in like the background of some, you know, TV show and make it.
Yeah, it's funny. That can be a great exercise. Just taking a melody that you know really well, even if it's not like a guitar melody or an instrumental melody. Just take like a vocal melody that you know how to sing.
So that's all pentatonic, right? So that whole melody is a pentatonic scale, which, guess what? A lot of popular melodies are major pentatonic scales. So like you can pretty much, if you can find Amazing Grace, you can probably find most, I mean, like pretty much every Motown melody, right, is like major pentatonic scale. Like,
I mean, if there's one interest that has captivated humanity since the beginning of time, it has been the pentatonic scale.
right.
Of different varieties and forms, but pentatonics have been a major fascination for humanity.
Right. I mean, it gets attributed all the time to, you know, that like it's, you know, an African scale, a West African scale, but like I was raised Jewish. Like Hebrew music's like all minor pentatonic. It's all minor pentatonic, just different rhythm. But like, it's funny because whenever I first started playing the pentatonic scale, I was like, wait, this feels really comfortable to me. And I'm like, yeah, because. Like Hebrew school was just like, you know, I'm like, yep, I know that scale already. All right, you want to jump into some other styles of harmonics?
So jumping off of what you just said of the, it's good for like an, you know, other than a melody kind of thing. You can also think of it kind of like how a drummer thinks about a fill. They're really nice to just sort of toss in like at the ends of phrases or in between things. I found a really good example in the Pearl Jam song Yellow Ledbetter. In the verses, he's like at the ends of phrases and in between vocal lines, he's just tossing in these the 12th fret E and B harmonics. And the chord progression just goes E, B, A, E, and it just does like. And then he goes like. He just like tosses it in and like make sure that his fingers, when he goes back to that riff, doesn't cover up the harmonics, so that you kind of hear it just like a kind of like a cymbal crash, just sort of going over into the next phrase, and it can sound really nice.
I think that 12th fret B and E are probably the most common to use. Isn't it in Dazed and Confused too that he does that boom down 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 down.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Right.
I forget what the notes are, but
I think it's
that sort of.
I mean, you get the. And that's all he's doing. So
Yeah.
it's a good way, right? It's the easiest is the E minor usage, right, or just E usage of those harmonics because it fits over E
Yeah.
And,
When I was younger, I used to feel a lot of pressure to like fit this sort of like kind of like these techniques into like any key, being able to use it whenever I wanted. And kind of as I get older, I'm just like, some instruments just are stronger in certain things, and just sort of embrace its strengths and weaknesses for what it is. And
we say in E in standard tuning. Another way to break that out is change your tuning, and now all of your strings. So you can. We're just talking about everything right now in standard tuning, but you could totally you want an A chord, change your tuning to A.
Yeah.
Like all the notes in A, which we should do like an alternate tuning episode too.
That's a great idea.
Yeah,
I've actually been really, as like a very short tangent, I've been really into like using alternate tunings to get like these like microtonal things going on. Yeah. That can be a lot of fun.
Dude, alternate tuning clinic. All right, Steve's into the alternate tuning clinic too. Nice. It's like everybody also finds their own alternate tunings that they really like. Like I'm a big dadgad guy. Like I like dadgad. Which all right.
One of my folk friends loves the open chord tunings. So you can just like slap his whole finger on like the 4 chord and just doesn't have to think about it.
Well, and especially and then we could jump into a whole slide clinic, which is that's the reason. One of the biggest reasons you do a open tuning is like, then you could just do all
your chords.
Yeah. Cool.
So there's 2 other kinds of harmonics, and then we can kind of get into some more like do like some riffs or examples and stuff. So the other 2 main kinds of harmonics is the metal, the pinch harmonic, which for example purposes, I'll turn on the distortion. Kind of thing.
Yeah.
That sort of stuff. That I know less of the actual science behind it, but the technique of how you do it is you take your thumb.
Yeah, go ahead. Make sure you're in screen with the thumb, but you got it.
Oh yeah. You take your thumb, and usually you're holding your pick like this. Let's see. Yeah, like that. Where your thumb's kind of like halfway. When I kind of use larger picks than most people, but
I use those same picks.
When you try to do the pinch harmonic, you slide your thumb. Oh my gosh, this is harder than it looks. You slide your thumb down to the bottom, and you first strike the string with the pick, and then make sure that your thumb just sort of graces the string as you're passing it. It can be kind of hard. This is even more finicky than like getting the high harmonics out of the high strings. You really need to just practice, like literally just like take a scale and like just try to do all pinch harmonics, or like take a riff that and do it all in pinch harmonics, or take a melody that and do it all in pinch harmonics. Just because it can be really difficult to sort of get that consistent sounding every time. Right. And it just takes a lot of repetition. So if you really want to get the pinch harmonic thing sounding good, just make it part of your practice routine for a couple weeks, where part of your warming up is just like, all right, G scale, just doing it in harmonics. But that's another thing that will be very tempting, to just turn the distortion pedal on. And similarly to before, I would really urge getting it to sound nice without the distortion, and then adding the distortion so that it sounds even better, because it's just like, it's a more critical eye that you're being under when it's clean. It doesn't come out as easily. So you need to make sure that all the mechanisms that you're doing with your hand and your fingers and everything, they're all working at like optimal levels, or whatever you want to say. So yeah,
this is definitely one of those things that you're going to get frustrated with yourself trying to learn this.
It's going to be a lot of you're trying to play it and you're like, why isn't this working?
Yeah, I mean, I remember when this is one of those things that I remember when I was learning how to do pinch harmonics, and I'm not great at pinch harmonics. Like, I mean, there's some dudes that I'm like, whoa, you can get it out of get like
Zakk Wylde I listen to and I'm like, I don't even know how you do it that fast.
Yeah, right. It's crazy, like the commitment some people have to it. But like I remember, I think I was like in college trying to learn how to do pinch, and I started playing guitar a little late, so I was like 18.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I started playing guitar like I was a drummer first, so I started playing guitar like in college pretty much. And I just remember when I was learning pinch harmonics, I was like, why won't you work? Why won't you work? And I like always tell my students, you just kind of need to sit there and like just do it. Do a repetitive motion. Move your finger, like move your pick around to different spots too.
Yeah.
Right? Because like there actually are different pinch harmonics on every note.
That's true. I completely forgot about that. Yeah, depending on where you can, we have this whole area of space from, there we go. That's a little bit better. Yeah. This whole area of space from our neck all the way to our bridge. And depending on where you do the pinch harmonic, you'll get different notes out of it. Yeah. These harmonics are going to be which is why they call them squealies, because they're way higher than the other harmonics to the point where you don't really even register it as a note. It doesn't sound harmonic or like a melody or anything. It's a sound that you can make, so you can like, this is I guess that's 2 octaves up, and from there you can just like keep going up and up and up.
Yeah. So experiment where you are on the string, because certain parts are going to get get squealier. So closer to, I guess it was closer to your neck. They're higher or they're lower pitched.
Yeah, exactly.
Still very high. Okay, that's something I've never registered. I just know like it sounds cool when I do it here, and it sounds cool when I do it here. Like cool.
Well, while we're talking about distortion plus harmonics, a thing I forgot to mention in the open harmonics is one of my favorite things to do. This kind of connects to the approaching harmonics as like a fill almost sort of thing. When I'm playing something that's a little bit more fast-paced or punky or hard rock or whatever you want to say, there'll be like some kind of break or drum fill or something like that, and I'm about to come back in with my guitar part, and like a beat or a half a beat before, it'll just be like, this like, just like high. You can do it on the 7th fret or 9th fret. I find the best one to be G and B string on either of those two. Just depends on the kind of flavor you want. But it's just this real quick high noise that you hear right before it just goes back into like this like the punk version of like a bass drop,
right. It's
so that's one of my favorite usages. I play
that was cool. It almost sounded like feedback when you did that too.
Yeah, that's kind of what it emulates, is the sound of feedback, but just for like a hot second.
Yeah. Controlled feedback, which is nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Cool.
So we were talking about pinch harmonics. So like I said, try to do them in a clean tone. Make sure that, and like the goal for why you do that is because you get everything working at its best. And then when you do distortion, it'll be that much easier and it'll just sound better. You'll have more control. It'll sound more consistent. And it'll sound just exactly how you want it to sound when you hear a harmonic in your head. And then when you go for it, those two sounds are going to match.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And pinch harmonics you can do on any note, any string, any note, any string. I mean, it's going to be harder on the higher strings and higher frets because running out of room again in our what we can actually perceive as notes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's an advantage that you can do with pinched harmonics or artificial harmonics is like the technical term for it.
Okay.
And then the similar advantage with the third kind of harmonic that I'm going to mention is that you are no longer restricted to just the open strings and the harmonics you can get from those. You can move them around. You can do different things. Even like, I know I said before that the that the pinch harmonics you don't typically register as a note, and most of the time, or it registers more as a sound rather. And most of the time that's true. But if you, like I said earlier, sorry,
Yeah.
hold on, sorry, someone called me. If you are, oh my gosh, if you are doing the harmonic like over the bridge pickup or just next to the volume was all the way down, or just next to the neck, you're going to be getting 2 octaves up from the note that you're fretting, which right now I'm fretting an F sharp on the D string, so 4th fret. That is like sounds more like a note for me. So what you can do is combine that with the open strings, or even just use it by itself to try and create melodies with notes that are outside of the limitations of the open string harmonics. Which leads me to the final form of harmonics, which is nicknamed, I forget what the actual, I guess it's just another form of artificial harmonic. I guess there's probably not its own term, but the nickname for it is Harde Harmonics, because people who are way better at it than I am can do these really crazy effects where they are doing it really fast, combining it with open strings, and they just have it has this really crazy effect. If you I should send, there's this guy, I forget his name, but I think his name's like Manuel Gardner or something like that on Instagram. He's crazy. I mean, even aside from his harmonic stuff, he just has like really beautiful guitar playing, which usually I'm a little skeptical of the like guitar wankery show off kind of thing, but he does it really well and it sounds cool. But his usage of Harde Harmonics is really cool and a perfect example of what I'm talking about. But if you listen to this stuff and you're like, I really want to do that, get ready to be very patient because it takes a long time to get used to this. But basically what you do is you're going to fret a note. So I'm going to do 3rd fret A string, which is going to be a C natural. And I'm going to take similar to how the natural harmonics work. Well, I guess, yeah, it wouldn't be an artificial harmonic. It would be a natural harmonic. But you're going to take your finger and you're going to put this finger just over top of 12 frets up. So I'm on the 3rd fret. We're going to go to the 15th fret. Just touch the 15th fret without actually pressing down, similar to the other harmonics. And you're going to use your pick, or you can use your other fingers, but I like to use my pick. And there you get 1 octave up. You can then go 24 frets up, which for me goes into this territory, and you can access the next octave, which is pretty cool. But for our purposes, let's just focus on the 12th fret one. You can combine this with, let's say like, I'm on a C here. Let's just do like a C major 7 chord. So A string 3rd fret, D string 5th fret, G string 4th fret, and B string 5th fret is our C major 7. These types of like jazzy chords or whatever sound really nice with this effect because it just tosses the whole sonority up an octave, and you'll get it's just like really pretty. It sounds cute, fun. That's pretty low on the guitar neck, which you could access those same notes up here. Where harp harmonic, obviously there's a tone quality change, but where harp harmonics really kind of shine is when you start getting up near in like the 7th to 12th fret area, where your harmonics are actually going to be past your fingerboard. Let's see if I can find these. That high one's hard.
That's cool. See, I have like zero experience with these harmonics, so
I'm pretty new to them. I discovered there's a guitarist, I forget his name, but he's a jazz guitarist, and he was like really well known for doing these really beautiful and technically complicated arrangements of jazz standards. And he would just do these. I mean, this is the guy that everyone, I mentioned, that like Manuel Gardner person with the flashy Instagram harmonic thing. That's like, this is the guy that started all of that. He like founded like, or like did a lot of the setup work and exploration for using these harmonics in like really musical and like kind of almost like orchestral like applications. It just really kind of gives you access to getting up to this octave that's like all the way up here is where your notes are. If we had like a continuing fretboard, the frets would be like in the 24 to 32 range is like the notes you're accessing. It starts to, you know, it kind of sounds like you have like a string section, like you have like violins that are also playing with you. I'm
gonna check that out for sure.
It's cool, but I forget this guy's name, but he has these like, he'll like, I mean, doing that arpeggio. Oop, man. See, I'm not an expert at it. But, doing that arpeggio is cool. There are people that literally do like sweep versions of these, and it's like they're just going all over the place. There's another guy. Oh, his name is Roop. It's like Rupert. It's like it's
Rupert Murdoch?
No, it's like ROOPE, something like that. I don't know. I'll have to look it up and send links for all this stuff.
So like I said, I've never done the harp harmonics, but the one thing that like in the Police song, like I mean that Andy Summers is big into harmonics.
Yeah.
And in Message in a Bottle, in the one part he does like the F sharp minor and then he just touches.
Oh, really?
Like he touches 12 frets above. So he pretty much mutes the fundamental and lets the harmonic ring.
Yeah.
And it just sounds super cool. Like that's a way to kind of combine the two where you're not having to do it also. It's that extra picking thing because it looks like you're doing that with your pointer finger, you're touching and then switching your pick to your middle and thumb.
Yeah.
So that's weird because now we actually are changing your whole picking.
Yeah.
The whole picking style. So
it takes experimentation, and depending on context, I oscillate or I switch between these two like ways of doing this right hand technique. Like Jared said, I got my index finger coming out, which usually, you know, we're looking at a thumb and index for the pick. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. I keep getting these calls.
Right. Can't stop.
My index finger is coming out, and then I'm holding my pick between my middle and my thumb. And there's kind of like two ways to go about it. You can like let me get up a little bit closer. You can hold your index finger on that, and then almost independently, like it's its own limb, you can move the pick. Or sometimes I kind of like find a good position and I just lock my hand in this position with my finger sticking out, and I find a good way to just either way, it takes fine tuning. Listen, I'm not an expert at this stuff, so that's why I'm not like, oh, I always do it this way, because I haven't sat down with enough patience to really master this stuff yet. Those are kind of the two ways that I see people doing them that I tend to
I'm wondering if you like developed, if you were gonna really jump into this, and this is maybe just me being a little nuts on it, but if you put like a finger pick on instead.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
That would be.
I mean, that kind of gets into like you see these harmonics in classical guitar playing. They have, you know, nails on all of their fingers.
Yeah.
So they can just do things like picking guitar players literally can't.
So just grow your nails.
But we can also do things they can't do.
We're on quarantine, so you can grow your nails long. No
yeah.
like this is the time to get get your flamenco nails going.
Yeah. But that police thing, the police example you mentioned, reminded me of it's kind of like a variant on the harp harmonic. You can either pick it or you can tap those same harmonics. So if I go back,
you showed me that the other day.
Yeah,
right. That was
if I go back to this like C major 7, this 3rd fret A, 5th fret D, 4th fret G, and 5th fret B string. The C major 7 chord. Before I located the respectively, I went from low to high in the chord. I went for my harmonic notes. Sorry, it's hard to think about sometimes. For my harmonic notes, I'm doing 15 frets above or 12 frets above all of those notes. So I got 15, 17, 16, and 17 on top. I can also just take all of those notes and just kind of whack them with my index finger. And that'll also get it out there. I've never tried to do 2 octaves up there. Maybe someone who's better at it than I can do it. See, it seems like you can get them out. I just can't do it right now, but...
No, I think this is, I mean, it's cool because we're starting to get into some of this territory of the experimental part of playing your instrument, which is like really good stuff for
quarantine.
as music teachers, what'd you say? For quarantine? Yeah, we're deep in it.
Sitting hours and hours and hours with your instrument doing nothing but making sounds that are appearing in your head. Perfect for quarantine.
But like I think as music teachers we get into the habit of teaching so much of the scalar, so much of like the rote learning of like this is how you go from here to there. Yeah. And I think we've been doing a couple improvisation clinics and stuff like that, and I'm like, this is awesome because this is the stuff that like really you get to be you. In your music playing. We do so much of like teaching you how to play this song, teaching you how to do it this way. And it's been fun to get outside of the box and be like, yo, let's talk about harmonics. Let's talk about free improvisation. Like Erica did a free improv clinic yesterday. And it was like, nice. Again, that's not something that I'm really like that I have much experience in free improvisation. So it was fun to like.
That's cool. I'm gonna have to check that out. I'd like to dive more into that stuff. I mean, for me, like the way my practicing usually takes shape is, and I'll keep it quick because we're a little off topic. But when I'm practicing, it's less. It's less of it has still a structure to it, but it's less strict of like, I do this, and then I do this, and then I do this, and then I'm learning this, and then I'm going to use that to do this. It's kind of like I just sort of follow my ear and think about like, what kinds of chordal ideas am I being interested in right now? What kinds of textural ideas are fascinating to me? Whatever pops into my head that's sort of intriguing or seems unique or something that I want to introduce to my playing, I just sort of tackle that as like a concept. Yeah. And when you approach things in like a broader scope like that of like a whole idea, how do I bring this idea into my playing rather than like, how do I learn this song? It kind of opens up the landscape a little bit where you can like improvise your way through practicing. You're just sort of making up material for yourself to practice to try and get better at these concepts. And that's the biggest thing that jazz has done for me, which I'd love to do a workshop on that.
All right. Nice. But you want to show a couple examples of just each of those, like that are like more musical examples, and then we can. Yeah.
So there's the yes tune. What's it? Roundabout. There's the roundabout one, which you could do the line better than I could. I forget how exactly.
He actually does. He does another harmonic thing in there too, because.
Oh, he does the low one. Yeah.
No, but even in the middle of the song, it has this whole like. Yeah. He also goes. So like there's some cool stuff like you don't even notice that like but he's and that's just 12th fret 7th fret, 5th fret, and he's just getting it's the chords that he's playing here in harmonics.
Yep.
Which is just like Steve Howe. Well.
Yeah. And like Jared said, you're just doing that it's the same way you would just bar your finger and go like that. Obviously the pitch is going in the opposite direction, but it's the same physical motion, but we're just doing that, not pressing down, just lightly putting our finger on the string. Kind of it's hard to get that. It's more of an acoustic thing, but
yeah, exactly.
There was that Yellow Ledbetter by Pearl Jam example where he does the E chord, goes to B, and then he comes over to A, and then when he comes back to E, he does before he goes back into the beginning of the riff.
Right.
And I made the analogy or comparison to a drum fill earlier, and that's a good way to think about that, because he's not doing that every time. That doesn't happen in every verse. It doesn't happen in every phrase. He just does it sometimes when it makes sense to him, when he's hearing it. So yeah, that's a fun one.
That also reminded me of the is it Enter Sandman, the Metallica, where he does that too? Is there a
harmonic in Enter Sandman?
Not Enter Sandman. In Nothing Else Matters. Is that the one? That's one. I'm not a big Metallica guy, but doesn't he do the like? And then after that, like one part, he goes. I think he just does those harmonics at one point.
Yeah.
I've had to teach that song a lot. It's not my favorite, but
nothing else matters.
Nothing else matters.
Yeah.
And then
there's, outside of like really technical and inaccessible things, there's not a whole lot of harp harmonic examples, but just the basic, like I was just talking about, the sort of conceptual approach to practicing. You can just take any chord progression that you know and just find the 12th fret above each of those notes and just try to do the harp harmonic. Recommended first just taking time with one note, even if you just go like 5th fret on the D string, this G, and just do it with a metronome and practice getting the technique down, and then try to just do like little scales. Get the technique down real quick, and then you can like start doing whole chord progressions and whatnot, and mess around with it.
For pinch harmonics or artificial harmonics.
Yes.
Van Halen, right? Like Van Halen's a great. I was thinking their cover Really Got You. Like he does a ton in that one, like you know, like it's fill after fill, where he's using a ton of those pinch harmonics. He does a lot of those. I'm even thinking in the solo that he does in Beat It. He does like boom, well, right, where he does like a pinch harmonic, then like a tap harmonic, I guess we could call that, and then so Van Halen always great for guitar tricks, right? Just like stunt.
If you want a million examples of pinched harmonics, look up any metal band from the 80s and you will have a wealth of material. You know, Twisted Sister, I'm sure, has so many pinch harmonic riffs.
Yeah, but you know what?
Zakk Wylde, you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, blues guitars use this a lot though too, right? Like especially on bends. Like that's where I use it the most on like my bends, when I like hit something, you know, hit my third and I want to bend it, like it's like squealing.
Yeah, it can sound cool. Yeah, especially if you have some distortion on, and you go up to that, like if we're in E minor, kind of thing, and then we go up to that minor third, the G, we can do the pinch harmonic and then bend that up to G sharp, and it just sounds pretty cool. That next one.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. That's perfect. There you go.
Yeah.
That's cool. Those are all. So there's plenty of examples. Let us know. Yeah, nothing else matters.
Yeah, I'll have to send you. I'll have to look up the people that I mentioned in the video, and you can put the links in like the. I know you're putting these on YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. So these are all going on YouTube. So if you miss it, come on back, or if you missed a section, if you have any questions, hit us up too. Right?
Yeah.
Steve, you got any questions? No. All right. Cool. Anything else you wanted to add, Rob?
Yes, actually, I thought of this earlier. Ironically, when I was young, I found it way more natural to pick up, and I hated picking downward for reasons I don't understand at all. It doesn't make any sense to me now.
You're a reggae. You're a reggae guitarist, and you had no idea.
Yeah. Funny thing is, I was a total metalhead, but it was just like I would be playing Metallica riffs, but just like all upstrokes. Very weird, I know. But so when it came time for me to try and learn pinch harmonics, I naturally being stubborn, when I was younger, I was like, well, I haven't been playing downstrokes this whole time, and I'm not going to start now. So I had to figure out a way to do pinch harmonics with my index finger. I can't really do it anymore. But you can do the same idea with your thumb,
right?
Kind of just grazing the string. You can do that same thing with your index finger. I can kind of get it out.
Yeah,
it's just a little bit harder.
I
remember there was a short period when I got good at like alternate picking these artificial harmonics. Whoa. It was really, really wild. So
again, experiment, do things different.
Yeah.
I love that, like, instead of like switching your style to downstrokes, you were like, no, I'm just gonna learn how to do this a complete way. Like,
I saw everyone on like YouTube and like in my lessons, like just doing downstrokes for it. And I was like, but I don't want to do that.
I'll just make it way more difficult on myself.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't do that. We're trying to make this easier on you guys to give you shortcuts, but sometimes you got to take the long way home.
Yeah.
Is that Supertramp? Is that all right? So take the long way home. All right. I think on that note, I think that's the end of the conversation. Thanks, Rob, for showing us this stuff. We'll be back with Rob doing some more exercises, more cool kind of guitar stuff. We got Rob Kraft and Rob Wickline competing for 6 stunt guitar tricks. That's We're gonna do like a dueling banjos situation on one of the calls where guys are both just shredding over each other's face.
Dueling Robs.
Yeah, dueling Robs. Well, you probably know actually because you played with Rob's band for a period, right? So
there was a very short period when I was playing with a minor error. That was fun. Yeah. I took lessons with Rob when I was in high school.
Oh, no. That's awesome. So look at that. It's a full circle. I always tell the summer camp parents that like so many of our kids end up working here that you'll get your money back.
Yeah.
That's a good my selling point for camp. I'm like, you're just investing, like you're just doing paid training.
Yeah.
They're coming back. So.
Yeah.
All right. Great. Thanks for hanging, Steve. Thanks, Rob. And we'll see you soon.
All righty. I will see everyone later.
Take care.